All right. How's everybody doing? We gonna stay awake after lunch? So guys, I'm gonna talk to you today about AppSec. We're gonna talk about actually building an AppSec program. And we're gonna walk through a bunch of different stages, some technical stuff and things like that, but we're also gonna talk about the psychology behind it. We're gonna talk about the relationships you have with the company and the things that everybody forgets about. But let's jump in. Okay, who am I? My name's David Girvin. I have a big dumb mustache, and I'm a big weirdo. I'm a husband, father, surfer, hydrofoil. I love Brazilian jiu-jitsu and travel. Yeah, I have a real weird background. There's just a few things. I was a ship captain and a pilot. I had a fabrication engineering company, and I was a missionary in Africa and Southeast Asia. So basically, that's there just to show you that I am not the normal, got my master's in cybersecurity, went to cybersecurity, and that gave me a very different perspective on things. That's my lovely family. They're way better than I am at everything, including being a human. And some of the places I worked were 1Password, We Hack Purple, Bit Discovery, and currently I'm at Red Canary. Okay, we're gonna outline building your AppSec program with a different perspective on management and integration. Some of the things that we'll hit are social engineering for good. I know, everybody that's been to DEF CON, they don't understand that statement. They're like, social engineering, that's what we do to be bad, but there's a good way to do it. AppSec is internal sales. Be a part of the team. Technical SDLC dive. And what has and hasn't worked for me. I've failed a lot, and from those failures, I figured out how to do some things right, which is amazing that I could do that. But warning, concepts, thoughts, they're all based on anecdotal evidence from building application security programs. They're my personal opinions. So if you disagree, that's fine. If you need to complain, there's my email. I used to have one that was more vulgar, but this is family friendly. If you find me abrasive and sarcastic, you know, but somewhat charming, you're not wrong, I am. But one thing I do well is I care about people well. I just am a broken human, so I come off like a jerk. But that's part of AppSec, right? We're offensive security guys. You don't want anybody actually talking in public that's in offensive security. And if you hang toilet paper over the back of the roll, get out of my talk. I don't like you. There's something broken with you. And if I'm saying that, you're really broken. So there we go. Syllabus. These are the things we're going to hit. What's an AppSec program? Why spend money here? How to hire? Relationship, you know, threat modeling, SDLC, blah, 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 blah. I'm just putting this in there to show you, if you're management and you've been at technical talks falling asleep, I'm going to have something for you. If you're technical and you're boots to the ground, you're doing stuff, I'll have something for you. I'm trying to make this fit the conference so you can sleep for part of it, whichever one you don't want to, but I will wake you up. So what is AppSec? Application security, or we call it product security at my company. Yes, people argue there's a difference. I don't care. But it's a team. It's a program designed to protect the code that you own. It includes all the code your engineers write, third-party libraries, open source tools you use. All that stuff is vulnerable. It's a strong relationship between you and C-level and any stakeholders in your company. It's internal sales. And this is one, like, all the super nerds like, what? Sales guy are the devil. And I'm like, I'll get there, but you know, you have to learn to be sales in AppSec. It's a smart use of tools and testing. It's also understanding that business doesn't flow, there's no product. If we jam everybody up, we don't make money, you don't have a job. I mean, these are hard concepts. But it's not old school grumpy gatekeeping. They're like pushing the glasses actually guy, you know, I have him in one of my memes. It's definitely not dumping 1,000 vulnerabilities on your engineering team and being like, fix it, you guys wrote crappy code. That does not work. I can hear the laughs, and that's actually not a laugh, that's a cry. It's like heartbreak inside. Yelling when something can't get fixed right away, you know. I am that person, I'm an angry person, but we have to learn how to control ourselves. And building a wall, you don't want to start a war with engineering. Those dudes have been angry for a long time, so, you know. But, you know, for the CTO or CFO or whatever, you know, why spend money in here? Here's just a few things. In 2020, average cost to businesses affected, data breach in the United States is 8.6 million. That's the average. It sucks if you're on the top end of that, you know? Reputational damage, in my opinion, is far worse. When I threat model companies, I do the business side of things too. I enjoy SWOT and like looking at product development and planning. I talk to them extensively like this. All these small niche companies, like who I work for, when I work for 1Password, you don't use them necessarily because you like them, even though you should. You use them because you trust the name. Everybody here's like, I use 1Password. It's my password manager. It works. I know them. They're good. So, you know, same with where we're at now. So reputational damage is such a big thing, and we have to be so careful with that and making sure that we protect our company that employs us. You want to protect your customers. This is a huge thing. I think sometimes in tech we forget that we have customers and they're people, and they do good things, and they have their own businesses, and you know, and when it comes to AppSec, we want to protect our internal customers, which is our company. So it's also estimated that we lose $250 to $60 billion of intellectual property being stolen. This is just, I can't even understand that. Like, it's insane to think how many good ideas of ours get stolen by other countries and hackers and nation states and all the fun stuff. Hopefully your insurance mandates it. I know Jake's laughing somewhere, but you know, it's one of those things that we need. Every single company that has code should have application security. This isn't 2004, and you're a damn adult, so learn it. Okay, we're gonna start with hiring. I love Zoolander memes, so there's gonna be too many memes. I apologize already. But you know, soft skills are more important than being a shmee. To all the shmees in the room, you're important. I'll give you a hug after the conference. Come find me. I have the green lanyard. We can hug. But it's true. If you get the smartest dude on your team, but he's a dick, nothing happens. So if you hire a jerk, nothing will get done. Your first hire should be a 50-50 mix of amazing soft skills and application security. Not saying they should be a dummy. I'm saying that they need to understand how to talk to people and know application security. So higher levels of understanding of application security is okay. If someone can go, okay, giving them tokens is bad. Hopefully they have a little bit better understanding of certain protocols and stuff like that. But if they get the ideas, if you can ask them, like, how does this work? And they can tell you, but they can't write the code, guess what? That's okay. Because when you get into real engineering and you have really complicated code bases, you're not going to be able to keep up with the engineers unless you're in that code base every day. So it's okay to hire newer people who understand the basics and have amazing soft skills. I have neither, and they hired me, and now I talk in front of people. So, you know, while it's nice, they don't need 10 years of dev experience. You do want, when you start building a team out, you're not just one guy, you do need good dev experience, you know. On my team, I have a mix of breakers and devs, and you know, I make sure that we're all learning each other's skills, you know. I can write code, it's pretty bad code, but I make sure that I team up with one of my awesome devs who's on my security team, and we code pair together. You know, I make sure that I'm improving, and I teach him how to think like a jerk. So it really works. You can't find that unicorn, and you definitely can't find that unicorn for subpar pay. So you have to be realistic in how much money you can pay people. I hear guys all the time like, why can't I find a guy with 15 years dev experience, 15 years of breaking experience, has run a security team, and I want to pay him $70,000 a year? I don't know, dummy. Like, why can't you find that guy? It's math, you know? You can't afford that guy. That's just realistic, and you have to find other ways around that problem. It's okay. I've done it before, and you can too. You got to balance your team with people who have experience in particular skill sets, but are still jack of all trades. This is something I really just smash about all day on my team, which is we need to learn how to do everything. Application security is so big and so broad, that takes 25 years. So what do? You're humble, and you ask questions, and then when someone on your team is awesome at something, like you just have some just amazing breaker, every time you're doing an internal print test, every time you turn on Burp Suite, guess what? We jump on with him for an hour, and he shows us tips and tricks. You know, if you have someone who's just an awesome scripter, and he can hook every API up like it's nothing, you know, we jump on with him, and we look at like, oh, my Python sucks compared to yours. Why is this, you know? So these are the things that you have to do, because this is not something you can just pay your way into. It's a massive, massive undertaking. Good bridge building can make up for less technical skill, but amazing technical skill cannot make up for a bridge burner. This is huge. And I'm not anti-hyper-technical AppSec people. Like some of the guys on my team, and I work with some amazing people like Matt Graber, like just monsters of reverse engineering and stuff. They're some of the best in the world, but they're nice. And they're nice to other people in the company. So can you tell that I came in when security was a little grumpier than it is now? AppSec has insane salaries. If you can't afford, take a chance with a passionate new person. We talked about that a little bit already, but funny, sarcastic people can be great bridge builders. We work primarily with engineers, and it's a different audience than traditional InfoSec. A lot of traditional InfoSec is more dealing with network. You're not dealing with engineers, or your GRC, you're dealing with auditors. It's very like TIE and that kind of thing. AppSec's different. Engineers are special people, and from what I've seen, they're all different, but they take sarcasm very well. And it's a great group of where you can take someone who might be annoying to the GRC team and you can put them in the AppSec team, and they make people laugh because they're stuck behind a computer coding all day. You know, it's a different reality, and we're the best. We're the most fun at the bar. I mean, let's just be. It's just how it is. I don't know why that is, but AppSec, when you take people out to dinner, we're better than salespeople. We don't pick up the tab, though. That's why you bring the salespeople. Opposing view. Hire rockstar security developers to fix all the bad code. So I have friends in this industry that are very good at what they do. They think what I say is wrong because they are amazing developers, and they're like, I got hired as a security dev, and I just go in there and fix everything. That works when you have 100 people. How many here have 5,000 developers in their company, or 10,000 developers in the company? Can anybody jump in and fix that code base? No. You might be able to patch a few things. So that kind of security, I think, worked really good 15 years ago. I think it's changing, though. We have so many more people in the industry. We have so many more people writing code. I don't think there can be a SME to fix every single vulnerability. I don't see how it can scale on a good level. So, you know, obviously the baby says that's just wrong. I just had like my second kid, and for some reason baby memes are funny to me now, and I apologize for being a dad and old. So it's just working that way. But you know, we'll get to some more of the technical side of things here in a second. But we're kind of going through just this whole thought process on management and how that's all working. So I teach leadership stuff outside of work. Real passionate about this. I feel like good leaders raise up people around them, and it changes people's lives. So if you build an application team, you're going to be a team leader, right? Even right now, like I have a leadership role in our team, and I'm not the director, but it's more of a cultural leadership role. I make sure people are doing well. So just a couple thoughts on leading your team. It's really easy for your team to fail from bad leadership because, you know, shit runs downhill. So a good security person isn't necessarily a good team leader. If your team leader doesn't genuinely care about the individual success as well as the team's, you get shitty middle management. I see so many heads nodding right now. So you guys have been there. When you have the guy above you who isn't really that good at his job and he's a jerk, that makes it a lot worse. You can put up with someone who's just a monster and they're so good, and you're like, yeah, he's just a little bit there. Or you can put up with someone who cares about you, you know? But when you get them both, you gotta like take a step back when you're building these teams and look at like yourself and really ask like, should I be leading this team? What are my blind spots? Like this is hard, like humanistic things to do. But a few quick things. I'm a big proponent of servant-minded leadership, customer-focused, which is your team. You know, you're focused on your team member's success. You know, if you focus on your team member's success, your team is going to excel. All the other stuff, your metrics, hitting your KPIs, all that kind of stuff is going to hit because you're making sure that everybody on your team is crushing it. They have good mental health. They have the right work you're not putting them in positions that are too easy or too hard for them. Like, these are all things that really matter. And the whole servant-minded leadership thing is leading from the front. You're out there working just as hard. You're a shield. You're not going, well, Bob just didn't pull his weight this sprint, sorry. You don't do that. And that just ruins all this, because this team is a really weird team. You have to be technical, but you really have to be able to push through all the soft skill side of stuff and actually build all these relationship and bridges, which we'll talk about. Humility and honesty make up for not knowing everything. If you cannot be in a meeting with developers and they talk about something you don't know and go, hey, whoa, I have no idea what you're talking about. That's a pride thing, and you shouldn't be an AppSec. You shouldn't, straight up, get out. Because no one in this industry in application security knows all of it. Like, I don't care who you are. You just don't. So you have to have humility. You have to be honest. You have to ask questions and be good at asking questions. That's a huge skill set. Honest visibility. Be open when you're crushing it and when you need help. It's not just being honest and humble. It's also having real visibility. You need to make sure upper management, your team knows everything that's actually going on. You're not hiding things, all that kind of stuff. It's weird. I've worked around a lot of weird people. But those things really matter. Taking responsibility for failures. Own up right off the bat. Like, I've been in so many dev meetings where I did something stupid. And I'm just like, I screwed up. I'm buying everybody here beer and nachos or whatever we want. I apologize. But I'll be here with you to fix it. That shows those people that you're in it with them. It really does make a difference when you're just grinding through all this code. And yes, this is my favorite one. Learn to care about other people. Have you met other people? Do any of you drive? We already talked about that earlier. I hate every human on this planet when I'm in my car. This isn't something that comes naturally. I don't wake up and go, I love people. I have to talk myself up. I have to okay, this is your job. Your job is to go in there, make sure these dudes succeed, crush this, and care about them on personal levels. Obviously I don't work in corporate InfoSec, because I actually have all my friends' numbers at work and stuff like that. But I want these people to win. And I think that's what leadership is. You're invested in their personal lives. So it's hard. It's real hard, because as we said, we've all driven a car before and people suck. So it's something we have to continuously keep pushing for. I told you he was in here. I love this meme. I don't know. What's our relationship with the company? I think this is kind of a different view than you're going to hear in a lot of AppSec talks. I don't think that security should be the nerds in the closet. And I've proven it at my company now. We're loved by our company. We bring value and revenue to the company, which is rare to hear for AppSec. But every company will be different. And this is how I try to place us. We view all of our positions as internal sales and customer service. I don't know if you guys have ever been around a real modern IT program, but they position themselves as sales or customer service to the internal company. They treat all of the internal employees getting their Jamf updated or their new MacBook or whatever as customers. So they treat them like humans, and they're nice to them, unless you work at a crappy company. We don't treat them like those customers. We treat them like good customers. And that's what we try to do, too. I look at engineering as a customer base, as valued people, that if I don't have them, I don't have a job. Just like in sales, if you don't have customers, there's no money, so we don't work. And then we all have to go back to getting real jobs where we have to use our hands. But we also have a unique place. We touch the C-level. We touch product managers, engineers, managers, IT, sales, GRC. AppSec done correctly is really interesting because you actually influence all these things. Is anybody here ever done a offensive view of product? I've done that multiple times. The salesy term is SWOT. But I look at it as red teaming our product. So I'm not talking about the code base. I'm talking about where we stand in a business. Who's our competition? Are we going to be ousted by this technology? What do we have to look forward to? I mean, this is from being an AppSec-minded person. You think like a criminal. That's why you're an AppSec. and somehow we're not in jail, and people pay us money to be criminals. It's an impressive thing. But we actually can add value to everybody. We can show the C-suite how much money they can save and how much money they can spend. These are all different things that you have to think of. We're not just going to go run tools. That's not AppSec. This is AppSec. Yeah, and like I said, I want my team to be loved by the company. You'll see why more. This isn't like some weird ego thing. I know I'm an idiot. I don't need the company to love me for that. My wife loves me, and that's all I need. She really bad taste, but it's a thing. When you're loved by the company, you can get things done, and we ask for the worst things. When something's really bad, and we go, we have to stop prod and fix this. If it's Chad in the basement going, hey, you dickheads, you didn't do this right, and you can't code anything, now we have to stop production. You're not gonna do it, right? But if it's your buddy that took you to beers and likes you and like sent you some cool lock-picking crap and all this weird nerdy stuff, you're like, oh, Dave doesn't suck that much. I'm gonna do this for him. It's really about winning people and getting things done in the company. And that's, that's how AppSec has to happen, because everybody here that has worked in AppSec has, as an engineer, dig his heels in the ground and tell you no. And it's tough, but there's ways to get around that. So where do we start? Before anything, I already talked about hiring, all that kind of stuff, but where do we start with our program? Threat modeling. I heard there were some feds here. Welcome. Maybe. If one of you is my handler, I hope you got my cookies at Christmas. But yeah, let's threat model. It's just what I was talking about. I threat model everything. I threat model business. I threat model my house. I threat model AppSec. This is awesome. The normal AppSec path is get tool, run tool, send 5,000 volts to engineering, bitch about them being dumb and not doing it. And has that worked for anybody? I have not seen that work in a company yet. I've seen guys making like $200,000 a year doing that and not getting anything done. That doesn't make any sense to me in my head. But threat modeling should help you find real areas of concern, exploitable vulnerabilities from right off the bat. I've definitely had threat models where I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, everything's done Kubernetes and Docker. Okay, cool. What are we using for our Docker images? Oh, cool. Did you write all those Docker images in root? Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna have to change every single one of our Docker images now, That's a real exploitable vulnerability that you can just find through threat modeling. And you need to build out your procedure first. You need to really understand threat modeling, read some books, and then write it all out and build a policy for it so anybody can do it. Don't be a gatekeeper. You build something that every single person can do, and then you don't have to do things alone. So threat modeling should be sitting down with that engineering team, with engineers, or even with sales engineers. I've had guys in marketing find vulnerabilities through threat modeling programs because they wanted to sit in one. So you need to build something that everybody can attain to and jump in with you. And this is building awesome bridges. When you have an engineer in here and you're talking over something and looking at an information path or way you're sharing data or whatever, and that engineer goes, you know what? I think if we went this direction, we'd be able to exploit that. And he's never thought like that before. Hey, guess what? You have a new friend. He's gonna be stoked. He found some cool, weird hack. You can even exploit it, with him or her, and do it through that way, and then they're stoked. Now you have someone on your team forever. But all this stuff actually gets you ready to start doing a secure SDLC. All this stuff gets you ready to build your program, because if you know where your real weak points are, guess what? That's where you start, and that's the hardest point. But you got to make it fun. I put, beer, food, give them black hoodies, tell them they're hackers. You're a hacker today. They're like, oh, cool, I get to go live like this. I don't hack like that. I usually wear purple and pink, but that's just because I'm weird. So the secure software development lifecycle, our secure SDLC. This is what most people think of AppSec. This is how we're going to secure our entire code base and the whole lifecycle for development and continuous improvement. But again, this is where people get too excited. This is where people just start running tools and sending vulns and jumping in, and they hear the sales guy. The sales guy told me shift left. Awesome, So you're going to threat model first before you do any of this. Because you can't secure what you don't understand. If you don't know what your attack surface is, how are you going to secure it, right? You're not. Have you done an audit? Have you done any of the footwork stuff first? If you don't, there's nowhere to go. And pushing left isn't always the right place to start. I'll go over that. Sorry. There's a couple AppSec people here. Their head is exploding that I just said that. But you won't be mad in a minute. You need relationships to build and implement these controls. If not, you will get ignored. I'm gonna say that one more time. You need relationships built to implement these controls. If not, you will get ignored. If you go and run a SaaS tool on your code base and you get 30,000 vulnerabilities and then you go drop that in Jira, you might get shot. You know, like if you want to piss off an entire fleet of engineers, go do that. And I have had multiple guys come up to me. They're like, dude, I tried to start AppSec, and I heard you, and I heard Tanya, and I tried to do it, and they all hate me now. That's why. Don't do that. We don't start there. You're going to start with one control, and you're going to plan out your next year, the whole year. Everything you're going to do with that control for that year. You can do other controls, but I need that planned out first. I have the next 2.5 years planned out for my controls right now on my team. That includes maturing, but they're out. You have to be flexible. Some things don't work in your work culture. Don't listen to every talking head like me. Like, I'm an idiot. Like, if I say something, you're like, well, Dave said this, but I don't think it'll work in my company. Guess what? It won't work in your company. Like, I'm never right, just sometimes. After implementing control, step back, build a plan for the continuous improvement for that control, or already have it in place. Don't just jump into the next one. If a control is a blocking control, like it's something that's going to stop the CI/CD or whatever and stop builds, really be careful with it. I always start it as an education thing, where it just like brings something up, you know, in Visual Studio or whatever, and it's like, that was stupid. And then it becomes a suggestion, and then I write policy for it, and I slowly move it after multiple lunch and learns and stuff like that into a mandatory blocking control. Because blocking controls make people very angry. And you need to have buy-in and policy to back up those things before you do any sort of stuff like that. But these are kind of like the basic steps for looking at this. It's not a short process. The security guy TV, he was asking me, he's like, why don't we just patch everything and start our AppSec program? What's it take, like 2 months? I was like, my first control for this company, I had to sit through, I don't know, 20 sales lies and our demos, and then I had to look at how I'm going to implement this, how I'm going to fix all this, how I'm going to tune the machine or the tool before I can even implement it. Like, I mean, it takes months to do this. And they're like, we want it now. Well, you can have it now, but it's going to suck and it's not going to work. If you do it this way, you're going to introduce something slowly and surely, and you won't make everybody as mad. And so that's just where I got with this kind of stuff. Step for each control. You know, we learn what problem we're going to solve. I write these out. I know it sounds kind of silly, but you know, I dropped out of school in 3rd grade, so not really. But what technology we use, what part of the company we need to understand, we enumerate it. Just like you're doing a penetration test, you need to enumerate these things. You need to write them all out. You need to figure out all your paths. We're going to plan it out. We get all the people involved. We put together a good plan of action, including metrics and stakeholders and everything. And you need to have that in the beginning. How are you going to show worth? How are you going to do all this kind of stuff? Design. Look at how important this control is in your company. It's going to be a holistic approach. I hate that word, but I can't really think of anything else, so it's in the slides a few times, but I sound so corny. Wait, single pane of glass, quantum, come on, give me another buzzword. Synergy. Okay, now we're good. Do I feel like a CEO now? I feel like one. Okay. And then you need approval and buy-in. This is huge. If you don't have real buy-in, like if your VP of engineering does not buy into the control you're about to put in, it's not going to happen. Just trash it. Step on it, light it on fire, it's dead. It will never happen without that buy-in. It's a massive part. We're getting into the social side of things, right? And then execute. Go through your plan again. Really, like, I know people always say, like, go through your plan again and look everything over. I mean, really do it. Like, spend time on this. because this is where people get pissed when you turn on that tool. And then improve. And this is where you fix everyone getting pissed. This is where you immediately bring in staff level, principal level engineers to talk to about the tool that you just did. You communicate with them because you know them, because you've already built those relationships, right? Right? All right. And then you also make sure you get in the higher level, the people who you get to get their buy-in, and then some newer engineers. You need all points of perspective. You know, if this is too complicated for someone who just started developing at the company, then you need to make some adjustments for it. So you need to look at it from all points. So I'll put my slides up somewhere. But this is like an SDLC. This is actually one that I just did. So this is real. I think I took all the important stuff out. Yeah, just making sure I'm not like throwing my company under the bus on anything. But this is the way that I go. I look at everything in architecture, your deliver, your develop, release, your iterate, and then continuous improvement. And you know, you can see all the like normal AppSec stuff in here. We got SAST and SCA. You got your container scanning and configuration. And then you have some other, you know, pull request review, like where you actually have to check each other's PRs. I know it's crazy, but you can't just, in DevSecOps environment, you can't just let guys go wild. But, you know, and then you get into some of the fuzzing and all this kind of stuff, right? I mean, this is pretty straightforward. You can look this stuff up, but this is all stuff that does work. So you need to look at a list like this, and I'm always available. I mentor people and I consult on things and stuff like that. I can help you kind of go through this kind of stuff and figure it out. So your first control should be completely holistic, based on your company, but here's some thoughts. Don't start with SAST. I've already said this once. SAST is a great control. It is not the first control. Everybody loves SAST. SAST vendors love SAST. I don't know. They like took over conferences for too long. You could piss off everybody. Pick a control with low false positives. Writing policy for backup your control with buy-in is a great idea. Secure coding standards is something you need. I wrote all of ours for our company, and guess what? I'm not the best developer. But I studied this stuff, I learned it, and I wrote the policies for it. OWASP, all that kind of stuff has great information on those kind of things. Again, cookies and beer, because you'll piss people off. And you need to be thoughtful. You know, I think that's something we forget about when we're trying to build these. These are actually programs that will affect thousands of people's daily life. Like, don't make everybody's life suck. We want to care about people. That's my shift, not left, backwards sign. Trigger warning for all your AppSec bros or broettes or whatever, people who get super psyched on this stuff. Don't get dazzled by shift left. Sales guys lie. Not all of them. I was in sales, that's why I say this. Sometimes better off shifting right for the first control. And you always should end up left. You want to get down there. But shifting right, you have far fewer false positives. So then your next controls, different for each team. These are just some questions I threw in there to kind of help you think about things. But do you have a budget? A lot of code issues? Shift left. SAST, SCA. You hate your developers. Is it just you and you're overwhelmed? Security champions programs are awesome. I love them. And Slack bots are awesome. If you can write a Slack bot, you can change people's lives. Because you know what Slack bots do? They answer stupid questions. And we don't like stupid questions, so we make a Slack bot. It's awesome. Hired some folks, got a little team going, embedded security engineers, one of the best controls there is. I'm embedded on a team of people who are all smarter than me, but for some reason they think I know security, and it works. Is there some fancy new product coming out? Threat modeling and SRAs, security risk assessments. Those things are really, really, really important and can save the company hundreds of thousands of dollars. If they put out some sort of product that you could have threat modeled and changed the code base, change the way that we implement it, use a different, AWS procedure, whatever, and they don't have to go back, they don't have to have 30 to 40 devs working on it for a month to fix it, that's money. So that's your value right there. You just saved the company X amount of dollars. And you need to learn how to tell people how much you saved. So what worked for me that was a hair trigger. What worked for me for first control, most recently I did a DAST and threat modeling. I found an engineer, he's gonna be a security champion later, she actually. We grabbed a quick meeting, light threat modeling discussion, we went over this kind of area, took Burp Suite, crushed some stuff, worked real hard to make sure that I'm not handing them a bunch of false positives. Then I got with that actual engineer, went over those to make sure there aren't false positives. And we're like, no, these all look real, they're exploitable, your mediums and your lows usually aren't. We looked at their crits and all those kind of things, and then popped it in Jira. Guess what? Everybody trusted me. And this is starting from scratch. I was the only guy. They trusted me, and they got it done that week, all of it. That's because I put the legwork in, not because I'm good at any of this. Anybody can do this if you're nice, or if you have a bad personality but you care about people. Those are the two things. Remember that. So embedded with engineering, I talked about it a second ago, but embedded security engineers, this is huge. This is new AppSec. If you have enough people to map to product, get your AppSec guy in there, in the stand-ups, listening. They don't need to write code. I have a couple guys that do, a couple that don't. I do every once in a while. My code's not always great. But, you know, it's important. They can also get ahead of those threat models because they're in those meetings. They know what's coming. They can get ahead of the security risk assessments because they're looking at the Jira tickets coming through. It shouldn't take up all their time. I'm in stand-ups 10 minutes, 3 times a week, plus planning meetings for an hour every 2 weeks on sprints. That's not much time, right? I have visibility into the company. I know what's actually happening in the code base. How many AppSec engineers can say that? Like really say that? It's an amazing control. So tools. Tool acquisition is long and hard. You got to do it right. Trust the hype. Sales guys can be sketchy. All my sales guys, like at the booth, are probably just cringing every time I say that. Less tools you can do to do your job is the better. You don't need 18 things if you have budget. You're just going to make everybody crazy. Build a plan before you can acquire tools. Centralized location for everything in the beginning. If you map this out in the beginning and you have data coming into one spot, you will have a lot better, because I've had it where there are 15 spots. I'm clicking through different tools every single morning trying to figure things out when all I had to do was write a few API calls and some silly stuff in the beginning, and my life would have been better. Yeah, test the tools, API before buying. That's a big one. How can you be $1 billion company and your API sucks? I don't get it. No cybersecurity. If I had a newspaper, I'd hit certain companies over the nose with it because it's horrible how bad their APIs are. I just don't get it. They're $1 billion companies. And Checo lost awesome stuff in there. Sorry, I talk too much, so I'm trying to push through a little. No budget, no toys. So how do you get budget? We talked about value, right? Talked about how much money we've saved the company. Talked about how much money it'll cost the company if they don't give us money. It's like extortion. It works. But that's what you do, you know? Don't jam up engineering. Plan everything out. Good metrics. Build those bridges. That's how you like start to get in there. You start to understand these things. Useful metrics. Metrics are stupid if they're not done well. No one cares about your stupid pie graph that doesn't make any sense. They drive me crazy. It's like the biggest waste of time out of all of the meetings I sit through are metrics meetings. So make them count. Make them tell a story. Ask the people that you're accountable to what story needs to be told, and build your metrics to tell that story. And that's also for continuous improvement. Get your metrics to build and show you where you're failing and where you're improving, and then you can change the way you're doing things. This is continuously improving things. It's important. I love education and training. It's the biggest thing. It's super hard. It's so hard. There's a million different things, but if you're building those relationships, you're going to figure out what you can do. Lunch and learns, CTFs, buying some software, all the kind of cool stuff. You'll figure it out because you know the people that you're working with. If you don't know the people you're working with, I understand some of you have 15,000 person developer companies. It's just, you're never going to know it, so you're just going to buy a software and send it to them. That's better than nothing, right? But if you're in a company under 1,000 people, you should know what they really need. You should also know by the vulnerabilities you're pulling. If they're making the same mistakes all the time, guess what? Do a lunch and learn. Build a CTF on that vulnerability. Teach them these things. Don't be a jerk. Okay, social engineering, security culture, good social engineering, benefits both parties. They know their audience. They have buy-in from all parties needed. Builds a culture based on trust and visibility and servant leadership. I know, it's corny, but I love it. Bad social engineering, self-focused goals, does not benefit all parties, manipulation, zero visibility, using the stick instead of the carrot. Does that sound like your manager? If that sounds like your manager, I'm sorry, because I'm finally at a good company. But I've been around those managers a ton in the industry. So educational programs, we kind of talked about that. I'm running low on time, so we're just going to crush through that. Continuous improvement. One shitty control can ruin your whole program. I guarantee you if you just let SAS run and you don't tune it, it will ruin your whole program. You need to refine everything. This is just the way that we get better at what we do. Automate everything you can because there's not enough of us. It's a small group of people. And be customer focused. Your engineering teams, they're your customers. You love them. You learn to nerd out with them on everything that they care about and make their life better, not harder. And you really can. And be objective in where you suck. This is super important if you want to be good at this job because everything's constantly changing and you get a big head about things, you're not going to see that. So these are some ways forward. There's no one-size-fits-all plan. Everybody's company is going to be different, and I can't tell you what to do. This just work for me. And I know I talk with authority like I've figured it all out, but I'm just a knucklehead that doesn't really know anything, but have had some success in AppSec. So thank you guys so much for your talk. Does anybody have any questions? Go ahead. In my mustache? This is a mix of insecurity and arrogance. It's hard to figure that out. Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead.
What exposure does the company have to your 2.5-year plan for controls? Do they see that coming?
Yes. I have amazing visibility with up to C-level. I know CEO and CTO on a personal name basis. I can call them or Slack them anytime I want, even though I have a director between me and them. My director has meetings with the rest of our trust team, which is our IT team, and they make sure that everybody knows the controls that we have planned for the next 2.5 years, as well as engineering. We're super big on visibility. No secrets in our company. Good question. Oh, and sorry, he asked, what visibility do we have for our 2.5-year plan on controls? Is anybody else? Yeah.
So you described the traditional approach of get tool, run tool, find list of problems,
Yeah.
give steaming pile of crap to the dev.
Yes.
So given limited time, money, resources, how do you assert value to your leadership that you need to spend time doing something that may help with what you described as the more holistic, you don't like right? Like, how do you put that pressure?
How do we portray to leadership that we need the extra time to build these relationships and take a holistic approach, threat model, those kind of things, basically. Instead of the old school, like buy tool, run tool, piss everybody off in the company. You have to come in honest. I try not to get hired. I came in and said, if you want me to run this AppSec program, this is how I do it. I need time, and if I cannot build relationships, you will not have a successful AppSec program. You need to tell your leadership now that, even if you're already hired. Be like, listen, this weird guy made some sense for the first time in his life, and we need to build relationships. And he's like, you're an idiot, go run the tool.
Right.
But you can show value in making progress. If you start small, find a group of people, pour into them, ask them, like, what do you need? How can we make this safer? What's going to make your job better, but we're still going to like grow in our security knowledge and all those kind of things? Because you're actually social engineering a culture. That's the trick here. If you can, to the devs, yeah, if you can social engineer a security culture into their group, then you don't need 100 security engineers because they become the security engineers and they know the code so much better than we do. So that's usually how I do it. I try to do small things, and I'm really honest, like, okay, I tried with this guy, he hates me, but this guy likes me, so I'm gonna see what I can get done over here, and we're gonna leave them alone for a little bit. And it really does make a sense.
Did you roll your own threat modeling program?
Did we roll our own threat modeling program? Okay, so funny enough, when I came onto the company, there was nobody, and then the VP of security took a leave for like a few weeks, going through some stuff, and he was like, you're good at threat modeling, just threat model. So yeah, I wrote out an 11-page how to threat model document. Maybe I wrote too much. And then I threat modeled the entire company. I met with all the architects, I met with devs, and I sat down and drew out these horrible drawings because I didn't want to use Threat Dragon, so I just used Google Docs because I'm dumb. And then Now, we're at the continuous improvement stage. And me and another security engineer, because now we have like 8 people or something, or 7, and me and him are going through and revising it and making it basically to a more elite level. We're using programs to help us have a macro view of it, and then also for individual products and stuff like that. But yeah, OWASP has some really good stuff on their threat modeling, and it's a great place to get started, but I think everybody kind of needs to write their own policies. And if you get stuck with that kind of stuff, we're all people. Don't be like, you know, I was definitely like worried about writing policy for a company. I'm like, who am I to write policy? I'm an idiot. But then you realize, oh yeah, everybody else is a person too. And if you write something that's personalized for that company, it really does change, like the way everybody looks at it. Anybody else before I get off? One more. You're all screwed. No. She asked, what are our thoughts for larger companies with embedded security engineers? It depends on your leadership. If you can figure out how to tell your leadership, this is what really does work. Embedded security engineering works, and we could prove it. You might be able to hire. Chances are you won't. So you do the best you can, because that's all we can do, right? So if you can get, you know, if you start breaking it up by product, then if you don't have enough for product, then you start breaking it up by, you know, I don't know, I hate to even say like front end, you have one for front end, one for back end, and that person, you know, jumps around. I've definitely had it where I'm on 4 different product teams, and I'm doing a ton of meetings while we're trying to hire and stuff like that, and it still works. You still have visibility. You need to figure out some way to get visibility in there no matter what, and that's the really tricky part, right? You have to be creative. We're in AppSec because we're creative criminals. Like, so we got to figure out good things to do. I know everybody's like, I'm not a criminal. It's like, I am, so deal with it. Is that okay? It's not the best answer, I'm sorry. Okay. Guys, thank you so much. I apologize for Jake for letting me come up here.